it's your intention vibrating.
Words are literally just a vibration. You know what I mean? Like when you think about it. But like it's just weird to think about. Now we're getting into this really complex idea where like, wow, some vibrations are good for us, but some vibrations are bad for us.
Yeah, let's take that.
You know what I mean? What does it mean?
Let's take that a step further really quick. This is a little associated to the phenomenon of cymatics. Check this out. There's this interesting phenomenon that occurs when different vibrating things come into close proximity with one another. They will start to, after like a little bit of time, they will start to like sync up.
Entrainment.
Yeah. They will start to match each other's frequencies, you know?
I'm glad you said that.
Yeah, they sync up. They'll begin to vibrate together at the same frequency. They sync up sometimes in a way that scientifically doesn't make sense.
Do you know what else does that?
What?
Metronomes.
What do you mean?
If you take like classic metronomes, the ones where they spin.
No way.
Yeah, they entrain.
They sync up?
Yes. If they're at the same BPM, but you start them different, yeah, they sync up. You know what else does that?
Analog metronomes.
Yes.
That's crazy.
You know what else does that?
What?
Crickets.
What?
Yes, throughout the night. It's called entrainment. That's why, dude, I'm so glad you said that. I want y'all to understand, like, we don't know each other's notes coming in.
Right.
It's all synchronous. It's like he brings what he brings, I bring what I bring, and it just fleshes out.
We don't talk about it until we get in here.
Before you go further, just real quick, this is described as the phenomenon of spontaneous self-organization, also known as entrainment.
Yeah. So it's crazy you say that, because the thing that you had asked me to talk about was like the theta waves and how those frequencies affect our brain, right? And it's the same concept as exactly what you just described. It's, what did you call it? Spontaneous organization?
Spontaneous self-organization.
Yeah, it's like, think about it. You take these different vibrations, right? And you just put them beside each other. Mm-hmm. And over time, they just begin to match.
They sync
right?
up.
That's what you said, right?
Yeah,
they sync up.
They sync up.
You know what else?
Which doesn't make sense scientifically. Like they're confused by this.
Right. But it makes sense to me because it's thermodynamics.
Right.
You take two different heat sources. Let's say you touch somebody's hand. This is just basic thermodynamics 101. You touch somebody's hand and you keep it there. Or, you have I don't know, like cold water and you pour it on something hot. Anything that has different degrees of temperature, and you put them together.
They match up.
Yes, because the heat from whatever is significantly hotter will flow into the object, and eventually there will be an equilibrium. Now, I'm not talking like, oh my God, I put lava on my hand and it melts my hand off. I'm not talking about that.
Right.
I'm just saying, like, you touch somebody's hand, whoever's hotter, whoever's colder, your energy over time is going to equilibrate. It's going to flow into one another. So it's like if that works with thermodynamics, but it also works with vibration, which heat is just vibration, really. Yeah. When you think about it, it's energy. But like that's just got to be some sort of harmony.
Does it work with living with someone?
I mean,
I think it does. I think it does. Yeah. I really think you become similar
over time.
And think about women's menstrual cycles. They sync up.
Yeah. If they're exposed to each other, if they're around each other regularly.
Exactly. Yeah. If they're around each other.
And Nick, this is like when you're playing one chord on the guitar over and over and over, and the guitar across the room that's not being played matches the same chord.
Did you know it'll do that?
I think he told me that before.
If I have a guitar sitting right here and there's one over there, it's not like every single note, but let's just say this. Let's say I'm playing a high E on this guitar. The low E on that guitar will start to resonate.
Wow.
All across the room.
That's cool.
It's unbelievable. Okay. On the Masaru Emoto thing, I want to talk about an experiment that was conducted after that.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Because there was some controversy surrounding the Masaru Emoto experiments, because like nobody's been able to replicate it the same way, which makes perfect sense to me, because if we're talking about vibrational frequency coming from a person's mouth, their belief and intention has to be
right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like it's obviously not going to work.
It's like with bending spoons, or it's like with anything.
The phenomenon.
Yeah.
They're not going to show up if you're.
You got to have the actual true intention and belief.
Do you know if he was doing it in English?
No, he's Japanese.
No.
So okay, then that opens the door to other languages being more potent with energy.
It's like Latin and Sanskrit have an energy to them that people are still beholden by. You know what I mean? And they're dead languages.
Good point.
I think there's something to that.
That the words that they're using hold a stronger value. Like we talk about, like the word love in the West is kind of like jaded.
It's got like 8 meanings.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's very like laissez-faire.
I love my homies, but I love pizza, but I love my mom and dad, but I
Right.
love my wife, but I love video games. You
Right.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
And in the
What's
East,
it all mean?
there's 8 different words for that.
Well,
Right.
and in Greece as well, that there's like 4 or 5.
4.
Yeah, 4. Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a great point. I didn't think about that. Well, Dr. Rebecca Marina, in an attempt to reproduce some of Masaru Emoto's findings, she actually got a hold of the same microscope that he used. It's called the dark field microscope.
Wow.
She studied her own red blood cells with the assistance of Dr. Farici. That's one of her colleagues. They studied and photographed her blood cells under different physical and emotional states. And this is what they found. This is crazy. When she was sad, her blood cells moved quickly and they became tear-shaped.
What?
When she was sad.
What?
I mean, I looked at all the photos. It's mind-blowing. Her blood cells were in the shape of perfect tears. When her emotions reflected great love, the shape and formation and the speed became normal. And no joke, her blood cells began to like sparkle,
What?
like with these little flints of light that weren't present before. These little glints of light, similar to like when an egg is fertilized and there's a flash of light,
Right.
like little weird things like that. When she was anxious, her blood cells clumped together and they started moving all quickly.
Tension.
Yes. Yeah.
Tension. Yeah.
Which was identical to when they studied her blood cells when she was sick.
Wow.
So fear is like makes you sick.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like dude, like just an example. My sister Emmy, it's her birthday today while we're recording too. So shout out Emmy, happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Emmy!
My whole childhood, she was always involved with piano recitals and dances, and you know how it was. Like
Yeah.
she was always in these performances and stuff.
Always.
Like with a bunch of other young girls her age, 30 or 40 of them, and like it's just a well known thing in dance or theater or music or whatever. Any sort of group of people that are like rehearsing for an entire season and then getting super stressed and then performing, the kids get sicker the more stressed they are. It's just true.
And it's another fundament of science, which is that we know that our thoughts and emotions, they cause our body to release different chemicals.
Yeah, like cortisol
Yeah.
makes us sick. They always say stress is a killer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It absolutely is. It's real. And I mean, that alone is very spiritual. And it's like very outside of this like physical world. Like if you're sad, your body starts to get sick. If you're stressed, your body starts to get sick. Like,
Yeah.
that's weird.
If you're sad, your blood cells turn into teardrops.
Tear-shaped?
That one's got me kind of messed up.
Bro, I'll
Like-
show you.
Like,
All right, this is the last experiment that they did, which is the most mind-blowing.
it gets weirder.
Yes, for sure. So they were like shook by these results already. They're like, wow, this is crazy. It's time to bring in our colleagues to look at this. They brought in colleagues. They grouped her blood cells into like 4 or 5 different groups, right? Because they wanted to do controlled experiments across all these groups. The colleagues came in and they picked, I believe, 2 of the groups of blood cells, and the colleagues prayed over the blood cells.
Wow.
They prayed extensively for like an hour over these blood cells. Everyone in the laboratory, when the studies were finalized and they got all the data and collected it and presented it, everyone there was stunned because the blood fluid that was prayed over not only shined
What?
like bright, not just the little glints of light from before, but like it was like glowing.
But hold on. But we are talking about at a level that's so far beneath the detection of the human eye, right?
Oh, 100%.
We're talking about like microscope.
It's a dark field.
Okay.
It's called a dark field microscope. Is that it? A dark
Dark
field
field, yeah,
microscope.
yeah, okay.
Yes.
So it shines.
It essentially, it completely blacks out everything behind it so that you could see things like this light and things like that.
Mhm.
That's how they were able to see the flash from a fertilization of an egg. Is
Right,
from a
right.
microscope like this.
So it shined.
But wait, dude. This is insane. The blood cells separate from her body that were being prayed over, the light and the motion were pulsating at the same rate of her resting heart rate.
What?
Her blood cells on a plate separate from her body that have been separated for hours.
They're entangled.
They are. They're still connected. They're still, how is, like, there's no connection to everything in the human body that blood cells need to function. And yet they've been prayed over and they're glowing and strobing like a heartbeat in the same pattern as when they were measured when she was feeling peaceful.
Wow.
And the cells that were not prayed over weren't even moving.
See, that just makes me think.
They weren't moving. It was like the prayer extended the life of the blood cells.
That makes me think really hard. Like there's so much stuff that like we don't understand. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's way crazy.